The path to the C-suite is rarely linear, and the challenges don't stop once you get there. I'm Wasia Kaman, and I'm taking you with me on my journey as a newly appointed CFO, sharing the hidden challenges, unspoken rules, and lessons I wish I had known. So whether you're in finance, work in finance, or just trying to get your budget approved faster, there's something here for you. The purpose of this podcast is to make better leaders and help leaders be better at life. Welcome to the Diary of a CFO. Welcome back to the Diary of the CFO podcast. Today, I'm so delighted to have with me Sindy Wilson. She is a former Chief Financial Officer of Kickstarter, the go-to crowdfunding platform for creative projects. Sindy is a strategic and transformational finance executive with over 20 years of experience. Most recently, Sindy was a VP of Finance Transformation and Analytics at Lyft. Prior to joining Lyft, she led finance for AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book, led business transformation and accounting operations for Old Castle Infrastructure, and was in strategic finance management consulting at EY. Sindy was the recipient of the Emory Alumni Association's 40 Under 40 Awards. She serves on the Emory University Board of Visitors, where she is a past chair and executive committee member. Welcome to the show, Rockstar Sindy.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to talk to you, Asia. You are, I'm telling you, you're a powerhouse woman.
Thank you. Trying to grow up to be like you, because what I just said was a lot. So why don't you tell us about your journey, the story behind all these great things that you did, and any unexpected twist along the way?
Absolutely. So, I'm African, right? So I was going to be a doctor.
Okay.
I went to pre-med to be a pediatrician.
Oh, wow.
And after dissecting a rat, eye, and a cat, I realized this is not going to be my path.
Amen
well,
to that.
Well, at the same time, I was working for a telecom and customer service and was tapped to do a special project with finance. And my love of numbers and what the stories are behind the numbers and how it shapes the business and where it goes, I knew right then. I went back, I changed my major so quickly. and then from there, it just skyrocketed my career of curiosity, of learning how numbers tell the stories around the business.
Mm-hmm.
And I went from the customer service role to being an analyst to really having that be what my path was, right? So from there, I have a very traditional background. I went to business school with Emory.
Okay.
Then I went into consulting with EY. And if I were to give my career a motto, it would be, I am a thrill seeker. I love to understand how things work, and I like to work with other people to build things. So when I leave a role, I leave a company, I leave a project, I like to see something that I've built and that I've left. So I went from EY to work for Cox. And in Cox, I had several roles in finance, which ended with me serving as the brand CFO of AutoTrader and Kelley Blue Book. I went from there to work for CRH. And CRH is a really large, vertically integrated building product company. I manufacture.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there to do business transformation. And I think the transformation is the plot twist for me.
Okay.
And people ask me, what's the thing that you've done in your career that's you wouldn't have expected? So we know as CFOs a lot of times will be addressing an issue for a company, right? So, Sindy, the performance looks low in sales. Sindy, operations, the service levels don't look great in operations. Manufacturing efficiency is necessary, whatever those things are. Even for our own finance function, our controls in space A or B don't meet the auditor's expectations, per se. And when you go in there, typically you go in, you work with the leader, you put together a plan. In some cases, I've been asked to be the transformation leader in partnership, or in some places, like to lead a function through its change. And I say, like, it's a gift. Initially, when I was younger, I was like, whoa, wait a second. I don't know if I could do this. But over time, I've learned it's a real gift, because what it does is it teaches you what it actually takes to build, shift, and change a people, a process, systems, a culture, all of the components of what it takes to build a really good and thriving function, even sometimes out of the finance space. And so that's been like the tell of my career, right? So from now, even now, whether it's going from CRH to Lyft to help them with transformation, or going to Kickstarter to really do the same thing, which was help them build up their strategy for growth, and how Kickstarter will grow into the future. It's all around how do we identify what are the challenges to achieving the financial sustainability that we're looking for, achieving the growth that we're looking for, and how do we set a plan forth for that. So that's what I've been doing in my career ever since.
That is awesome. And I like how you said, I look back at my younger self and I didn't think I would be able to do it, but it was a gift. How many times would you say leading a project is really what will make you visible? Because you worked at very large companies where sometimes you may feel small, or how do people realize that it even exists to grow in your career? Can you speak a little bit about what helped you stand out for you to even be the leader in those cases?
I'd say a few things. One is, first of all, how you treat and work with others matters. And in finance, we don't always own what it is that we're trying to shape and influence. And so first things first, like the way that you handle and work with others is important, because before you can be put on a big cross-functional project, I would say really hone your partnering skills.
Wow.
The second piece is understanding what your talents are, right? So for me, I am a creative. I like to build creative solutions to things in partnership with others. Mm-hmm. And being able to articulate that to your leader is really important. And then lastly, you got to do, like, I've made some mistakes, right? Some missteps. People, like, what are the missteps that you've made? One of the missteps that I've made is when I'm not focused on what I've been given and I want to move on to the next sexy thing. Because remember, I'm a thrill seeker, I'm a creative, I like challenge. And so it's so easy to go, all right, I want to go work on the next biggest project that we have. But doing your job well in the role that you've been given really creates a followership and trust. And from there, that has been how I've got on all of the sexiest projects. So I've over-delivered in my role. I have really focused a lot on how I handle people. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I've been really clear about where I want to develop. And that's what's gotten me there. So I've been on so many really amazing projects where you can add value. And because I've added value in my roles, it's been definitely easier for me to make a case to be on those really high-profile projects.
Nice. Now, tell us about how we can do the same. So you mentioned earlier how you lead change, right? Because it has culture, people, systems, and all this at the same time, especially a large organization. So let's say you are now given a new challenge, a new digital transformation. What is your go-to approach, your go-to framework to get that done?
Oh, it's a really great question. So we're entering into, let's say we're going to do a transformation and we're going to change how we do inventory management. We're looking and we're saying, I don't know what the right inventory levels are. Mm-hmm. Right? And so when I go into a transformation, the very first thing that I want to do is, first of all, build a team. And in finance, because I typically do this from the role in finance, we understand the function, but we're not always the expert in every single step along the way. And so the very first thing I want to do is build a good team of folk that are from across the business. Okay. That can help us come up with the approach to the problem, mm-hmm. and also help as culture champions to champion the change. Mm-hmm. The last thing someone wants is someone in the corporate office to come down to a manufacturing location or go into engineering or another function and tell them what to do without being a counterpart in that function. So the first thing I'm going to do is really build a team that can help. Okay. Then from there, I like to be able to truly break down the problem. So first thing that I typically end up doing is getting that team to go out and spend time across all the parts of the business. So whether it is, let's say we're doing inventory management and you do inventory management across 5 different product lines in 10 countries. And we really need to understand the variation of what we're trying to change. And that ends up giving your transformation so much more credibility. So that's the second thing, is really understanding, getting an understanding for what the problem is. And then from there, it's coming up with the plan for like, how do we put in incremental change?
Mm-hmm.
Big bang solutions don't typically work, right? So you go in, you're making too much change at one time, but it's how do we go in and make incremental change? And that incremental change creates wins that shift the culture. So an example of this, and I always like to give examples because when you talk about this in theory, like no one understands. So you're going to do the inventory management. So an incremental change would be, hey, we're going to first start with what you min-max levels. You're going to go in and we're going to put in metrics. And we're going to say, here's the metric we're going to look at. Here's the data, that a standardized way of looking at data. First incremental step. And from there, what it does is it creates this inertia and natural culture change so that you can attack bigger problems. Like maybe we need a different inventory management system. But now everybody looking at information the same way. We're putting information in the system the same way. We maybe putting in a new process so that we're doing the steps the same way. Now we can go in and we can put a system in place. And so those incremental changes are necessary, just like I said, to create the momentum and the culture for the bigger steps of change.
I love it. I love it. Because often when we think transformation, we think about a better system. But that's not transformation. I love your approach to really shift things, like being more intentional about all the steps that are in it. Now, I hear you and I'm like, yes, I want to be on that team with Sindy because I know I will get that visibility. How do you pick the people in that committee? What are the typical traits, habits, or background you're looking for besides them being in different functions? Is there a specific mindset, a specific vibe? Like, what are you looking to? Because I want to be on that team with you.
So the first is, remember I mentioned about myself, like how do I get on all these projects over the years to make myself visible? It's like, number one is how you work with others. I am first looking for who are those people that other people call when they have a challenge. And these are folks that are, if you put them on the team, they're going to have already the credibility so that when you send them out there to start working with others on understanding their problem, they naturally have the relationships. The other thing that I'm looking for is learning agility. Right? So what's learning agility? Because people have heard this term. It's really your level of curiosity in how quickly you can learn, but not only just learn it, shift your personal habits, right? So I'll give you an example. You may learn that you're trying to improve your nutrition, and this is a great one. And you're like, okay, vegetables.
That's really resonate with me right here. Improve your nutrition. Yes, go ahead.
So you need more leafy greens in your diet. Your doctor's like, more leafy greens you need to improve iron. So now you've learned something. You go like, all right, I have a goal. I'm learning that I need to eat more leafy greens is what I need to do to improve. But it's also like, can you do it? Like, do you actually have the discipline where you're going in, you're learning, and you can deploy that? So next time you go for lunch, you should get a side salad. And so you could take that and apply that to the corporate environment. Have you seen this person that they can learn something, they can grasp it, and then they have the discipline to put it in place? The second thing that I'm looking for, so we talked about people, how they get the work done. Do they have learning agility? And then I'm looking for them to be really good in their discipline. And so if you do industrial engineering, if you do sales, if you are marketing, whatever that function, product, and I've worked on projects in the finance realm, we talk about like a strategic leader, right? Like, what is a strategic leader? What does that mean? It's really someone that understands and can look at the company as a holistic system of functions and people and culture, and understand where you need to go next to help the company move forward. And so this means that you work across the business often, right? You may be working with a marketer, you may be working with a product person. And so I need that person to be strong in their discipline as well. And so those to me are typically the skill sets that I'm looking for.
Nice. And it's quite fascinating that you have such a framework, like a clear idea of how you're going to lead the project, how you're going to select people. And coming from your background, not the pre-med, from accounting and finance, what are some of the things that shaped your approach to leadership and strategic thinking?
Oh, this is great. I would tell you good mentorship. Good mentorship. I think that I had a mentor, and over the years, he taught me some different things. The first one is that he taught me was, one, Sindy, you don't have to prove yourself. We already selected you. You're already here. You back away from this proving of self. Well, why did he mention this to me? Right? Because when you're proving yourself, you got sharp elbows, right? Because you're like, I got to get in there. I got to prove myself. And instead, what he said is, you're really working with others to get things done. And you want to take away this desire to prove, because then from there, you're only looking at your contribution opposed to the contribution of others and, what you need to do to help them along the way. And so that's been first one of the leadership lessons that I think has been like transformational for me. Like, so when you do a new thing like a podcast, it's easy to get back into this notion of like, oh, I got to prove myself. No, we're having a conversation with some people, person to person, and hopefully other people can find that useful.
Oh, that's so good. Because I realized, so I started working with a coach a couple of years ago, and she asked me, Wasia, why do you always try to prove yourself? So we actually went back, and I realized it was because of a bad boss I had earlier in my career. So almost everything I was doing was in proving that I was worthy because of some things he said. And over a decade later, those things were still affecting me in my work. So thank you so much for sharing it, because I think we don't realize enough how maybe some of the things in the past trauma at work or even in life can affect your life now. So what's your experience? So besides, I learned it through trauma, you learned it through mentorship, but what are other things that helped you move on in your career and grow from whether it's mistakes or something bad happening to you at work or in life?
Absolutely. I think first, I just have a personal philosophy. Like, we're all human beings doing our best. And
yes,
that's at the root of the core. And I would tell you, and I'm gonna give a shout out to Everett Taylor. So if he hears this, he'll know that I gave him this credit. But he always says, he's like, assume good intentions. And so that's another way of saying that same thing, which is, and then from there, because we're all human, like I study myself. I spend a lot of time with myself. I do long walks. I meditate. Because if I can't shift and change and know what my habits are, then really it's hard to lead others. And so I think along the years, that's what I've spent most of my time on, which is knowing and learning myself so that I can show up to be the best version of myself for others. And I believe that creates a more empathetic human being. Knowing yourself, what you're good at, what you're not good at, what your triggers are, it just creates a level of empathy for others because you know what work it is. You're a work in progress, right? Like I'm a work in progress.
Yes.
So I think that's really the biggest arc to my career.
Spending time with yourself. Wow. Thank you, because I need that. And I remember when we had lunch, you were talking about going to the university of you and studying you. And it just stuck with me. And I've been spending more time with myself away from the not leafy vegetables. It really helped. But it's amazing because people don't realize what being a CFO involves, right? So what would you say part of your work as a CFO might surprise people, because we tend to think we on our spreadsheet calculating numbers, and it's so much more than that.
Oh wow, it is so much more of that. And I want to talk about two ways I think being a CFO would surprise someone. So the first is I'm going to make it all human. as a CFO, you work across all functions, right? And so you are building relationships with so many different people that you become a bit of a go-to on how to work with that person, right? So think about the CFO's role. So I work with you, and we're working on how to resource you. We're working on how do we move the company forward together. We're working on decisions that are being made. And so I've learned a lot about how you like to work, how you get work done, and how to pitch a recommendation to you, how to advise you. And so when you do that across so many people, you then become a person that advises others on how to get work done with others. It's just a natural thing. And over the years, I've had bosses say, like, are you serving as an intermediary between function A and function B? I was like, well, guys, I have all the information. So I know the sales team and the product team have a gap. And I'm going to bring them together in a really positive way so that product doesn't overcommit sales. Right? And so that is really one of those things that is a very concrete way that people probably didn't realize that they were going to be a connector of folks and an advisor of folks so that you can get to the right outcomes as a business.
Wow. And a therapist sometimes too, I feel like.
You sound like a CFO. a bit of a therapist as well.
It is. It is.
The other thing that I would say that really surprised me about like the CFO role is how much of this role is not about the numbers at all. It's more about where the industry is going and what the business needs to do to meet it there. And so an example could be, hey, we have, AI. We have AI is a disruptor, and working across the business to understand what AI could mean for us and understand, not only from an investment perspective, but from a strategic perspective. What do we want AI to mean for us? And then from there, you could talk about what the investment should be in it. But there's a lot of times where you're spending more of your time talking about these disruptors to the business and how do you handle those?
Yes, because you have to mitigate risk. And sometimes you feel like risk management's like just stay on the shoulder of the CFO of, okay, guys, no, we cannot do this, but how can we do it better? So what are some things like in your career you think helped you get to that thinking and operating beyond the numbers? Because yes, the CFO role is so much more than that. But what kind of things prepared you? I know you mentioned digital transformation, but what other things?
Oh, wow. A lot of times when you are growing up in going the CFO track, you're growing up in that finance world. You hold these FP&A jobs, and they almost embed you with a leader. So whether it's as part of the business, like a division, or even sometimes it's just a function, like you're partnered with product or sales. And I would say study the work, not only the finance part of that, like whether it's, hey, we're gonna have a new product, and can you build out a model that tells me what we think this new product is gonna make? Study how the product function works, how they get their work done, how they partner. And I think the more you can understand each function of the business, how that function works, and then take that back to what we do, it really prepares you to be an advisor and understand what it takes to do whatever it is you think is necessary to move the business forward.
Wow. So looking deeper than just the surface, just the spreadsheet, but really diving deeper into the business. So that makes me wonder, what is your day look like? If I was to shadow you on a Monday or a Tuesday, what will I learn? What will I see?
Oh, wow. This is a good question. I don't see, but we're in February. So typically at this part of my day, I start every day with a bit of a stand-up. So I've started a new role. I have a team of people that I'm getting to learn. And typically when you come in and you've taken over a new CFO role, there's a bit of some fires that need to be put out. And so I like to work, like I said, I would like to work collaboratively with others. And I like to be very organized. So typically in the morning, I'll bring folks together to be really clear about anything that is like very, very high priority.
Okay.
So I'll do a quick 10, 15-minute morning meeting where I pull my team together and go, hey guys, we have the auditors are coming in from X time to Y time. How do we prepare? Are we prepared for that meeting? And what should I know? Because I like to be prepared. So I typically start my day with understanding what the highest priorities are. From there, it's a bit of a mix of working with a leader to solve a problem, reviewing where we are against our performance, and then reaching out to folks to better understand what I'm seeing and what we need to do next. And that's just kind of the mixture of what my day looks like. Sometimes there's a fire drill. Sometimes there's an urgent call from the CEO. Those got to get handled. But typically, I start off the day. I try to be real organized, be really clear about where my time is needed and how they want me to be input into that. And then from there, like I said, it's a mix of decisions that need to be made, and then driving the business forward through what I'm seeing happening with the numbers.
And how do you keep yourself sane, like outside of work, like, because there is life, right? And then there is this intense day you just mapped out, because yes, February, this first quarter of the year, especially for companies that are calendar-based reporting, is a tough quarter. So it is a lot going on. So what helps you stay balanced, stay on top of your game outside of work?
Oh, wow, this is a good one. So earlier in my career, I was horrible at this. I probably spent all day and night working. I don't know if I slept more than 5 hours a day for the first 10 years of my career. But over time, I realized that, I got married, I have kids, and I want to make sure that my workday, that more days than not, I'm managing the workday in a way where it does not bleed into my personal life too much. Right? Sometimes it does at month-end close or whatever else. If you need to report out results, you get a board meeting. Sometimes it does. So first of all is I set boundaries. I set boundaries at work. And so I do try to not let my work bleed too much into my personal life. That's one. From there, I'm all things fitness, all things family. Fitness, family, that's it. So whether it's going out for a run, and that fitness is not just about physical, but it's also mental. Like I said, meditation, and then I'm at a kid's baseball game. It is baseball season, and I'm at a kid's baseball game quite often. And so just spending time with my kids and watching them grow reminds me why I do what I do, right? Like, to be able to provide a stable life for my children matters a lot for me, right? I am a first generation born here in America. My family, I said before, is from Nigeria. And so for me to continue to build on while my family moved here and provide that for my children, I'm telling you, it gives me so much purpose to my life.
Awesome. Wow. That's such inspiring. And I like how you said fitness and family. And I could say for me, it's food and family, but I think we're on the same page on the family side. So that's good. We align. But that's so inspiring because, yes, you always have to remind yourself why you're doing those things as you're going through it, because it can be a lot. It can be overwhelming at times, but having that anchor always helps.
Yeah, I had a mentor help me with this as well. Actually, the same one that told me about, like, you're trying to prove yourself. You don't need to do that. He said, Sindy, you got 3 balls that you're juggling at all times. 2 are made of glass and 1 is made of rubber. He said, your health is 1 and your family is 1 and your work is 1. So there's 3 balls. which ones are glass and which one is rubber.
Ooh.
And I was like, touche.
Yeah, touche right there. Like, which one will you not drop?
Which one? He's like, you can never drop that health ball. You can never drop that family ball. He says, but you can always come back and pick up your career. And he said, so just make sure that you're thinking about that and you're balancing those things as you grow.
That is so true. Because life be lifing sometimes. I mean, sometimes it's just a lot going on in life, and you have to be able to take a break. You have to be able to take a break to come back stronger, for sure.
Absolutely. My last living parent, my father, passed away in November of last year.
Sorry.
Thank you. And it was one of those times in life where you go, the world stopped for me. My whole world stopped. And a lot of times you decide, I'm going to push forward. You know, you have something going on personally, people push forward, you go, like, that's the professional thing to do. But for me, I realized I needed to take a big step back, because for the first time I wasn't okay, right? And I think grief in life, you know, we see like on LinkedIn and Instagram and all of the social medias, folks talking about this concept of life, you know, lifing, and being honest with yourself around which challenges you could still balance everything with, and which challenges require you to take a break.
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, when my dad passed away, I knew then my life had been rocked, and I needed some time to care for myself.
Mm-hmm.
And making all of his arrangements, all of those things, hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And I'm so proud of myself for taking the time that I needed to, you know, I took quite a bit of time off. And I'm proud of myself for taking a step back and going, hey guys, at this time in my life, I need to focus on me and me being whole so that I can be there for others. Leadership is a lifestyle.
Yes. And
when the lens in which you are living your life will show up at work. And so if you are grieving and you are hurt, you will show up with work with your heart hurt. If you're, you know, having a sick parent, you're going to show up with with that caregiver's mentality. If you have a healthy, you know, marriage, you're going to show up with a healthy relationship. If your marriage is not healthy, then maybe you're going to have trust issues with people at work, right? So leadership is a lifestyle. And that's the reason why I said that arc I talked about, know yourself, work on yourself. You have to as a leader, because you really do need to be whole and healthy in a good, especially in a really healthy mental place, so that you can show up with the energy that accompanies the energy that your team needs, and with the soundness that a company needs for you, because they bestowed their trust in you.
Yes. Oh my God. You're bringing back memories, because, and like you, I didn't take a break, unfortunately, when my dad passed away. And I thought I could push through. I thought that the world had to keep going. I could do it, only to break down months later. So I didn't fully recover. And it's something we don't always make space for in our organizations, right? We give a 3-day bereavement, hope you make it, see you next week. And it's just not easy, because like you said, as leadership is a lifestyle. If you're not okay internally, you're going to be a bad boss. Even if you were great, you're going to make somebody pay for,
that's right,
you know, the state you're in.
That's right.
It's so true.
We're human beings. And that's why full circle. Look what I see, it's come back full circle. We are human beings first. And I always say we bring our whole self to work. And that's what makes work awesome, right? Like your whole self to work, and you get to see people's passion and talents, and we all come together to do amazing things, and in the company, to the company's benefit.
Wow. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I have one last question before I forget, because yes, what you said resonates so much with me. What would you say are some of the things that the next generation of finance leaders should be mindful of or should be intentional about working more, especially in today's fast changing technology, AI? I mean, it's a lot going on. How do you think they can better prepare themselves for roles like CFO or just being a business executive?
Oh, wow. Wow. A couple of things. So I'll take it from in a very literal way. We need to train our finance teams on how to integrate with the ever-changing world of technology. And that's just from our perspective, though, performing the finance work. So that's first.
Mm-hmm.
CFOs, work with your team, get them training for AI.
Mm-hmm.
I got to tell you, I was in the most awesome meeting with one of my lead accountants. And we were looking at, I'm new to my new role, right? So I'm going deep, right? I'm looking at what's this prepaid account. How making sure the financials are sound. And we use AI to build a whole schedule that we can use to prepare all of these journal entries. And to watch her do it,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I am no longer needed in this meeting. I was so proud of her. So when I say teach, making sure that we're enabling our teams to work with the latest technology is so important. So they won't get left behind, but so that our functions are not getting left behind how technology is evolving. And then the other space that I would say is get comfortable with industry disruptors.
Mm.
If you looked, you could look 100 years ago. If you look at the cycle of economic turmoil, there's going to always be kind of some recessionary conditions that occur. And it used to be 20 years. Then it went to 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's every 5 to 7 years, you're seeing some economic turmoil happening. Well, what's driving that? It's disruptors. It's the pace of innovation.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I were talking to a group of CFOs, which I do all the time, I say, what are your industry's disruptors? And how do you stay with your ear to the ground so that you know what those are, so that you can prepare companies for the inevitable disruption that will occur?
Love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Sindy, for being on the show. I really, really, I can't even say how much I appreciate your time, your insight, your wisdom that you shared with me. Thank you.
Thank you. The pleasure is mine.
And that's it for today's episode of The Diary of a CFO. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed the show, don't forget to like, review, subscribe, and share with others. Our website is thediaryofacfo.com. That's where you can find all the episodes, access all the guest profiles, see their bios, and their social media links. It is also the place where you can apply to be a guest on the podcast and have information about how you can sponsor the show. As always, if there is any topic you would like me to cover in the future, just email me at ask@thediaryofacfo.com. Again, the email is ask@thediaryofacfo.com. See you soon.